Welcome back, everyone, to Digital Hammurabi. Dr. Josh, sorry, I'm just looking off on the screen here to make sure it's lined up. But we are back with lesson 15 in Learn to Read Biblical Hebrew. If you are just joining us, we are going through Jim Seao's book, A Grammar for Biblical Hebrew. This week we are in chapter 13, and we are starting the verb. Whoop, whoop. Sorry. Wasn't as impressive as I intended. But we are going to be learning the 𝑀 verb in the perfect stem, which I'll explain here in a second. We talked about it a little bit in the past, like what the perfect is and what the imperfect. But this week we actually get into some of the forms. So let me go ahead and get my screen. Wait, share the screen. There we go. All right. And we will get started. So if you are following along, wow, I just caught a glimpse of the side chat, and there are a lot of people here. Welcome, everybody. Good grief. If you have a question, I will try to spot it. It doesn't do the little highlighting if you write at Digital Hammurabi that it would somewhere else. Lisa for Truth asks, sorry if I missed another one. When the Septuagint uses virgin, that's a mistranslation of the words young woman, correct? It's actually a little complicated. I helped out 𝀭with a video. So that's Isaiah 7:14 talking about. Yeah, it might just be good to take a look at it because I kind of go through. If one of our mods can put that link in the side chat, I think if you search 𝀭with Digital Hammurabi, it'll probably come up. But also we have another question. Did you stop the Sumerian language lessons? No. So we have done, I think there are 13, but we did 13 introductory videos. So the introductory series is done. And then we wrote the book, the grammar to go along with it. If somebody wants to post that link in the side chat, and those videos and book 1 coincide. I'm working on book 2, which is the intermediate grammar. And when that comes out, we're going to do it the opposite order this time. When that book comes out, then we'll get the video series up for the second, the intermediate series. So good question. Okay, so thank you everyone for helping me out, grabbing those links. Cadaver Splatter says he's been going through the Ugaritic text again. Much fun and challenging. Yeah, I am. It's funny. Well, I'll save that story for another time. But some of my Ugaritic classes at Hopkins were fun. Yeah. Okay. So, with that being said, let's get into lesson 13, the perfect. So, I won't get into all the details here because, again, this is meant to be introductory, but we mentioned before that Hebrew doesn't have tense technically in the way that we have tense. So, when we think about Johnny hit the ball, that would be the past tense. Johnny will hit the ball would be the future tense. Johnny hits the ball or is hitting the ball, is present tense. Hebrew doesn't really have that, strictly speaking. They can, obviously let you know what the time frame is, but they do it in different ways that we won't get into here. But there are two aspects of the verb that you have in Hebrew, and those, and not just in Hebrew, but in other languages, you have the perfective or the perfect and the imperfect. Okay, so what does that mean? Very broadly, if you were to think about this as time, right? The perfect would be like a snapshot, like somebody taking a snapshot, a still frame, a still picture. Um, it it's viewing the action as complete. It's done, which is why it's often in the past tense. Um, whereas the imperfect is it's like ongoing action. Another way to think about it would be so like a video, I guess is what I'm saying. So very generally, if you think about a perfect, it's completed action. It's like a still picture done. Um, a video, if you're watching a video that you've taken on your phone, that would be more imperfect. Another way to think about it would be if you're writing about an event from the outside, like you're talking about this happened over here, you're probably going to put it in the perfect. It's done. It's complete. You're talking about it from the outside as being done. Whereas if you're describing, let's say, what's the example that I've heard used? Oh, like a battle scene. If you're describing as a historian the battle, and you're talking about like, okay, the Battle of Kadesh happened, and this, whatever. You're talking about it as a completed thing. It's done. That would be perfect. Whereas if you're describing it as a soldier in the battle and you're, describing things that are going on around you, that would be more of an imperfect. So again, that's I'm trying to give analogies here that they're not perfect. Right. So Cadaver Splatter says it in another way that's really great. Aspect designates duration of time and completion or not of a finite verb. Right. So that's much more clinical, and that's good. But so do you have completed action or do you have incompleted action? So that's why often if you're talking about action that's incomplete, it's ongoing, it's still going, that will often be present tense, future tense. It'll seem that way to us in the text. Whereas a perfect, something that's describing completed action, very often used for the past. Okay, with all of that being said, for right now, the easiest thing for you to do is just to think of the perfect as the past and the imperfect as the future. Later on, now that I've told you that it's more complicated than that, you can get into some of the the nuances of that. But for now, maybe just think about it. Perfect is past tense, and the imperfect is the future tense. Okay. So, what we've talked about verbs. Verbs have roots. So just like the word melech is made up of mem, lamed, kaf, malach, melech. These three letters are the root of the word. This means king, of course. If we wanted to say, turn, I guess, the idea of king into a verb, we could say malach, which would be he ruled, he reigned. So, right. The idea is that verbs will take the same sort of root structure that we saw in nouns, and you change the vowels oftentimes, or a letter that comes before, or a couple letters that come after, and that will turn it that mem lamed kaf has like kingness. That's a word. Kingship, something about kings going on. Dalet Beit Resh has something to do with words or with speaking, so when it carries over that same idea. So, um, the word that, of course, I used and that so many other people learned, the Cal Perfect, or so many of the verbal paradigms aren't on, is Shamar. So Shin mem resh is to guard or to watch something. Actually, I can probably make that prettier. So what I'll do is I'll put up, oops, actually, after last week, I was trying to figure out what's a better way to do this with these paradigms. Of course, not talking while I do them is good. Okay. So I will put up. This is not easy, folks. Oh, God. Sorry about the. If you're listening to this driving down the road, it's probably not all that exciting. Okay. So what I'm going to do, those are the roots. Shamar, Shamar, right? So Shin Mem Resh. So what I'm going to do, like I did with the, what did I do? I did plurals, and when I did the construct forms, all that stuff, or the noun endings, I put the root in black and then put the endings and stuff in a different color. That's what I'm going to do here. So just to quickly review, first common singular means I. Second masculine singular is like you to a man. Second feminine singular would be you to a woman. Third masculine singular, him, he, him. Third feminine singular, she, her. First common plural would be we. Second masculine plural would be you to either a group of men or a group of men and women together. Second feminine plural would be you to a group of women. Third masculine plural, group of men, them. Third feminine plural, group of women, them. Whew. Okay. Hope I said all that right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the vowel patterns in blue so that you can see how this works. So this is the cow. So the first, the cow, perfect. First common singular. Oh, God, this is going to be so difficult. Is Shamarti. This is not going to work out well. Shamarti. So notice a couple things to just pick up on if you're looking at this. Shamarti, the T ending is the thing you want to kind of key in on. For the perfects, if it's got a T ending, almost always going to be a first common singular, I. So Shamarti would be I guarded. I watched, I guarded. Notice the accent is here. The T ending is not heavy in that sense, so it doesn't draw the accent. So you don't have shamarti, you have shamarti. Notice the comets, patach, comets, pathak, shamarti. That's an accent mark. I'm trying to squeeze all this in here. That's the accent there. So shamarta, shamarta, shamarti, shamarta. Again, T, first common singular. Ta, second masculine singular. Oddly enough, this is pronounced Shamart. Shamart. So these are both silent shavas. It's just sort of a weird case. This is closing the syllable. So Shamart, Shamart, Shamarti, Shamarta, Shamart. This is second feminine, singular. So you guarded. So Shamarti, I guarded. Shamarta, you masculine singular guarded. Shamart, you feminine singular guarded. Shamar. Notice no ending on the third masculine singular. It's just Shamar. By the way, there's a reason that I'm saying these over and over again each time. This is a paradigm that you just want to memorize rote. Shamarti, Shamarta, Shamart, Shamar, and then Shamara, Shamara. Shamarti, Shamarta, Shamart, Shamar, Shamara. So notice, like, this one makes sense, right? The E ending here might look familiar, right? So if you said like Malki, my king, but really, like, the easiest thing to do here, I think, is just memorize this rote. Shamarti, Shamarta, Shamart, Shamar, Shamara. Shamarnu. Now that looks probably really familiar. Li lecha lach lola lanu. We guarded. Notice still not heavy enough. It's not shamarnu, it's shamarnu. These are going to look, these next two will look also very familiar. Shimartem. Now notice this tem ending is heavy enough to draw the accent. It's not shimartem. And one of the ways that you can tell without, you know, the fact that there's no accent mark here is that the comets, because it stands in this open syllable, it reduced to shava. So as the accent drew this way, it reduced this first comet. So shamarti, shamarta, shamart, shamar, shamara, shamarnu, shamartem. And if you've been with us for a while, you might be able to guess the next one. Shamarten. So shamarti, shamarta, shamart, shamar, shamara, shamarnu, shamartem, shamarten. And then these are, for better or for worse, the same. Shamaru, 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 shamaru. So these are the third masculine and feminine plurals. They look the same. They guarded, right? So shamarti, shamarta, shamart, shamar, shamara, shamarnu, shamartem, shamarten, shamaru, shamaru. Shamarti, shamarta, shamar, shamar, shamara, shamarnu, shamartem, shamartem, shamaru, shamaru. What I would recommend, one of the things that I found incredibly helpful when I learned, or when I was studying modern Hebrew, was the book that I used in any of these paradigms, these new paradigms. When you learned, for example, this is the cal perfect, right, or the pa'al perfect, or the G perfect, if you're a technical linguist or something. The cal perfect, if you were learning the PL perfect, or the pual perfect, or the hitpile perfect, or the nifal perfect, or whatever, there was a different root that you memorized with that new pattern. And the reason that you did that is, I mean, I suspect it helped me, is I could think, okay, what is the PL imperfect paradigm? Oh yeah, adaber, tedaber, tedabri, yadaber, tedaber. And in other words, it was separate. And so it was easy for me to just go through that whole paradigm quickly because I'd memorized that as a single unit anyway. So what I would recommend is as we go through these like this, at least these major paradigms. This is a major paradigm. The cow perfect shows up all over the place. The cow imperfect is going to show up all over the place. So, commit those to memory. Obviously, I think you should commit others to memory, but these are really important, not only because they show up all the time, but these endings are common, right? So, dibarti, dibarta, dibart, diber, dibara, dibaranu, dibartem, dibarten, dabaru, dabaru. That's the PL with davar as the, but notice the endings. The endings were the same. So, hitragashti, hitragashta, hitragash, hitragesh, hitragasha, hitragashnu, hitragashtem, hitragashten, hitragashu, hitragashu. So there's the hit pile. So anyway, the point is that the endings are the same. So if you memorize these, once again, shamarati, shamarta, shamar, shamar, shamara, shamaranu, shamaratem, shamarten, shamaru, shamaru. If you can memorize that, you'll have those endings down, and it'll be much easier to go through the other paradigms of the perfect. Okay, so the cow perfect. He talks about the different patterns that can show up. I won't go through those because I don't think that's germane right now. Again, I would recommend that when you, first of all, that you pick up the book, right? I think it's really important to pick up the book. Link in the description, by the way. But what's probably good is, for example, this week, that we're going to go through lesson 13. Go ahead and read through lesson 13 beforehand. Then, follow along as I go through it in your book. And then afterwards, read through lesson 13 again and do the exercises. I think that would actually be the best way to go about doing this. If you're following the series along, that's the way to do this, because I'm not going to talk about everything that he mentions in here because I don't think that would be practical. However, I do think that it's useful, very useful for you to go through it on your own. Okay, I'm going to read this paragraph quickly just because I think this is useful. The uses of the perfect. Biblical Hebrew does not have tenses in the strict sense of the word. Time of occurrence is indicated in context by certain adverbs or time words, and as we shall see in later lessons, by the way the sentence is constructed. The finite verbs themselves do not indicate tense, but aspect. That is, whether the situation is viewed by the speaker or writer as an outsider looking at the situation as a complete whole, the perfect, or as an insider looking at the situation as it develops, imperfect. So this is what we were talking about before. Oh, and actually, he's the one that uses the battle. That's what I'm remembering that from, which is not surprising since this is the grammar that I learned with. So he goes through a bunch of different uses. Again, this is why I think it's good for you to read this on your own, because I don't think it'd be useful for me to go through all the different possible meanings of the perfect. For now, it's just good to think past tense. That's good enough for now. Okay, so one more time. If you're listening at home and you want to say it along with me, please do. Shamarti, shamarta, shamart, shamar, shamara, shamarnu, shamartem, shamarten, shamaru, shamaru. I used to work, I've probably said this before, but I used to work in security when I was going to seminary. I worked security on the campus. And I did this with Greek paradigms. I did it with Hebrew paradigms. Those are the two big ones that I can think of. But as I would walk, I do this. Shamarti, shamarta, shamar, shamar, shamara, shamarin, shamartem, shamartem, shamaru, shamaru. And I do it again as I'd walk. Every step. I'd say the next one. It's maybe that's sad. Is that sad? Could be sad. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, I've missed a couple of things here. Sorry. It was like 20 minutes ago too. Okay. So syntax of the verbal clause. So you know that I'm going to go ahead and leave this up just so you can keep seeing it. You know that in English we do subject. The order of a sentence is subject, object, verb. Subject, verb, object, right? So Johnny hit the ball. So we say SVO, subject, verb, object. Now you can have a direct object, which is to something, right? So Johnny hit the ball to Lisa, but subject, verb, object. That's the order that words occur in. That's not how they occur in Hebrew, usually, in Hebrew narrative. The big thing that he talks about is there's some other things that he mentions, but you want to remember that normal word order is verb, subject, objects. VSO, verb, subject, object. So if you think about, Genesis 1, Bereshit, bara, Elohim, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. So bara, the verb, Elohim, subject, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz are the two objects. So VSO, and then there's like an adverb in the beginning. But that's normal word order. So the reason that's important when you read is and again, this is a narrative, this is not in poetry. Bear that in mind. But when you're reading through narrative, if you see that word order changed in any way, it's often for a specific reason. So emphasis is a big one. He goes through a list of several different reasons that it might get interrupted. But at any rate, that's important to remember. So verb, subject, object, VSO. Okay. The directive, hey. Now, we've talked about this before. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully that didn't really bother anybody. We're going to talk about the directive, hey. Review it very briefly. So on the end of a word. That's the example that he gives. Yeah. So the very common phrase that we see all the time. I think that's just yes. Okay. Okay. Well, let's just do that first. Habait. So the house. Let's do it this way. Bait is house, right? If we said habait, that would be the house. There's a way that we can put, there's an ending that we can put on the ending. This hey right here is the thing that you want to pay attention to. That's the directive hey. And what it's saying is toward this. It's telling you toward this thing, the directive hey. So toward the house or to the house. So Habaita is to the house. Other examples. Yes, those are less clear. Those are more confusing than okay. So kedem is east. So kedma would be to the east. So kedem is east. Kedma is eastward or to the east. So habaita is to the house. Okay. The thing that you want to remember when you look at this is notice that it's a ah ending. Normally, when you have an ah ending, that ah ending is heavy and it will draw the accent with it. So you would expect the accent to shift this way and this aye to go to a, habeta, but it doesn't because it doesn't draw the accent. So it retains that diphthong. I don't know what lesson it is that we covered this in, but we've covered this in earlier lessons. So if you need to review, go back and find out. Anyway, this is a directive hey, and all it is, it's an a hey that's added to the end of the end of the word that says it means to something. So to whatever it is that it's attached to, toward it. Okay. He's got a couple of notes about, I'm not going to go through the details of it. There's some couple of notes about the construct chain and how there are some things that can come in between the words in the construct chain. So yes. Right. So that's it for the chapter. Let's get into reading the Hebrew. If you have questions, please tag me at Digital Hammurabi so that I can see them. But we are reading through. If you've been following along, we're reading through First Kings. Just turn the temperature down in here a little bit. Okay, so we left off. So they're taking Solomon. David is given the command to anoint Solomon king. So and Zadok the priest took the horn of oil from the tent, and he anointed Solomon. And they blew the horn, the shofar, and all the people said, "Long live the king Solomon." Vayalu chol ha'am acharav. So and all the people went up after him. V'ha'am mechalalim b'chalilim. They blew on pipes. They played pipes. Which we talked about this last time, how that's kind of funny. Usmechim simcha gdola. So, and they were rejoicing a great joy. They were rejoicing greatly. Vatibaka haaretz bekolam. And the earth was like split, literally, maybe rumbling is a good translation, at their voice. Or their sound. Okay. So they're all rejoicing, a bunch of noise. And what is the response here? Verse 41. So Vayishma Adoniyahu v'chol ha'kru'im asher ito v'hem kilu le'echol וישמע יואב את קול השופר ויאמר, מדוע כל הקריה הומה? Good question. And Adonijah heard, so Shamar here. So if you know Deuteronomy 6, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Shema, they call that the Shema, Shin Mem Ayin. Hear, O Israel, or listen, to hear something. So this is just a cal, Vav consecutive imperfect, third masculine singular from Shin Mem Ayin, to hear. And he heard, and the subject is Adonijah. So notice here, verb, subject, object. And Adonijah heard, and I guess this isn't the object, sorry. They heard the noise. This is another, anyway, you'll see. And all the kiruim. So this is an interesting form. Yeah. Another root that you see all the time in paradigms is katal, which is a little disturbing because it means to kill. But you have three strong letters. You'll see what I mean as we go through here. We've talked about how like the hay is weak because it can't hold up stuff, so it'll often disappear or change. Kuf, Tav, Tate, Lamed, they're strong letters, strong radicals, so they won't change. So that's why they do paradigms with them. But Katul, you probably didn't need to know that, sorry. Katul, this is a cal passive participle. They're not terribly common, but they do happen. So Katul, masculine singular. Ketula, ketulim, ketulot. So what we're looking at here is another one of these cal passives, keruim. So kara, that's so ugly. Like means to call, summon. So the summoned ones, they translate this often like guests. So, and Adonijah heard, and all the summoned ones, the guests, who were ito, with him. So iti, itcha, itach, ito, ita, ito, with him. V'hem, and they, personal pronoun, third masculine singular, and they, kilu, this from kala, to like finish, to complete, le'echol. I'm going to switch that to chal means to eat. Let me do an easier one here. Shamar, Shamar means to guard. So if you wanted to say to guard, we call that an infinitive. To guard, to run, to swim, to jump, to eat. The pattern is shamor, shamor. And you can also put a lamed on the front, and you'll get lishmor, because the lamed, if you remember, means to. So you can just say shamor, and it means to guard, or you can say lishmor, and that lamed means to. So if you think about knowing that, you would expect that to be the pattern, but of course, this is a guttural letter, and guttural letters, don't like simple shavas, so you get a composite shava, echol, and that's really unattractive. What the way that I've written that? So let's see. Echol. And if you were to add a lamed to that for your infinitive construct, you get this echo vowel that comes back if you remember how that works. Le'echol, to eat. Probably this phrase is like now they had finished eating. But anyway, so and Adonijah and all the guests who were with him heard, and they finished eating, or now they had finished eating, whatever. Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just and they finished eating. Like I don't know the way that that's from. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'd have to think about that. And Joab heard, Vayishma, same thing here. What did he hear? Et kol hashofar. Et, your definite direct object marker. Kol, the voice, the sound. Hashofar, he heard the sound of the shofar. Vayomer, and he said, Madua, which is one of the coolest words in biblical Hebrew. I don't know why. Sounds like Medusa. Maybe that's why I like it. But Madua means why. Madua kol hakirya homa. Why is the sound of Kirya, the city, hakirya, homa. This is an interesting word. This is just another. Let me do this. I don't think we've done participles. What was that? Shomer. Shomeret. Shomerim. Shomerot. Actually, that's not. This isn't a good example. Damn. Sorry, I'm trying to think of a good example. I'm blanking on a third hey. Rofe. No, that won't work. Shit. Okay, anyway, the pattern here, Homeh, Homa, Homim, Homot. This is just a cal active participle, feminine singular. Hama is, and actually this, I think this is Hama or whom? I think it's Hama. I have to go back and look now, but it's like to be in an uproar, to go wild. Anyway, so this is a feminine singular participle. Why is the voice of the city like in an uproar, roaring? So he's hearing the shofar. They're hearing the shofar. They're hearing what was described up here. The land was split by their voice, by their sound, or with their sound. So he's saying, "What's all the ruckus?" Right? Might be a good translation. Okay, so Odenu medaber v'hine Yonatan ben Evyatar hakohen ba. Vayomer Adoniyahu bo ki ish chayalata v'tov tevaser. Okay. I wonder. Let me just look at something really quick because I'm curious to see if that's the same form. Yes. Okay. Let's just go back for a second. Verse 22. V'hinei odena medaberet im hamelech. Now, behold, I know that's terrible, but just for our sake here, and like, there's a better way to say that, but just whatever. Like, look, that's not any better. While she was still, this odena, this is a feminine singular ending from, this is attached to od, like still, yet more, still she medaberet, speaking. While she was still speaking im hamelech, with the king, Nathan the prophet came. Right? So this is trying to draw your attention to, I promise I'm going somewhere with this. It's trying to draw your attention to the fact that like she's still, saying her piece to the king. And while she's saying this stuff, you could picture in walks Nathan, the prophet. So action 1 is still going on when action 2 takes place. That's the picture that they're trying to paint. Okay. Odenu medaber. So this is a masculine singular. So let me just draw these out, this paradigm out. Remember how we talked about you can have cow participles. So shomer, shomeret, shomerim, shomerot. The PL participle is characterized by that mem shava prefix, mem shava. And the pattern is medaber, medaber. This shava on the front and this doubled middle radical will help you out of a lot of jams. That was silly. When you're trying to identify a PL form, if you see that shava up front, start thinking PL. Okay. All right. So medaber. Medaberet. Medaberim, medaberot. So this is just a PL participle. Notice the one that we had before was this form, medaberet, because it's the feminine singular. This one here is the masculine singular, which goes with this masculine singular ending on od. So it's the same structure. Interestingly enough, the hine was back here. If I remember that correctly in the earlier verse. But again, it's setting up the same patterns. It's interesting that the writer, I'm just curious if there's an intentional connection. Anyway. Odenu medaber v'hinei Yonatan ben Eviatar HaKohen ba. So while he was speaking, while he was still speaking, look, reader, Jonathan, the son of Eviatar, the priest, entered. So same thing. He's talking, somebody else comes in. I'd be interested to see if this is the same structure that's used early in Job. If anybody's knows Hebrew so well that you're here just for fun, and you want to take a look, go see if this is the same structure that's used early in Job when it talks about like while one messenger, one servant is talking, another one came in. That'd be interesting to know. Anyway. Okay. And Adonai just said, come. So this is a cow perfect, third masculine singular from Beit Vav Aleph. This is, so like he came. This is the imperative form, bo, from the same verb. So cow imperative, masculine singular, bo. So, and Adonai just said, come in, because ki, ish chayil. This is an interesting construction. Ish chayil is sort of like a man of valor, is sort of an older way to say it, I guess. But I guess we don't have to go into all the details of what that could mean. But like you're a reputable guy, maybe is a good way to say this. Worthy, I don't know. We can trust you is certainly, I think, implied in this. Ish chayil ata, you, a man of valor are you, ata. So ani ata at, hu he, anachnu atem aten, hem hen. Oh, there's an interesting. Come on, Josh. I can't believe I didn't just put that together. Or I didn't put that together until just now. Real quick. Yeah, it's these guys. Ani ata at, hu he. This is so not useful the way I'm doing this. Sorry, everybody. Wish I were better at this. Ani shamarti, ata shamarta, ta, at shamart. Come on, somebody. Hopefully that helps you. Ani ata at hu he, anachnu shamarnu, atem shamartem, aten shamarten. The other two don't help, but hopefully this helps. Okay. Leave that up so that you can go, what is that guy talking about? So Adonijah says, come in because a man of valor are you, like a trustworthy man are you. And good, this is probably acting, almost certainly acting as a substantive adjective, like a good thing, a good report, maybe. Tevaser. So basar here in the PL, notice the PL. Notice that, remember I said that Shiva up front can help you identify a PL. See that Shiva up there? This is the PL imperfect, second masculine singular from basar. Notice you've got your Shiva under the performative, under the prefix, and then you've got the doubled middle radical. Basar means to like bring good news. Alias fake name brings up a good point here, telling Amanda, Mama Atheist, don't miss Dr. Josh. I think that's me at her channel. Interestingly tonight. So hey, if you're interested in that sort of thing, which I know all of you are. Thank you, Elias. Oh, and Mama Atheist is in the side chat. Okay, where was I? All right. So you are, that's right. So you are one, like you are bringing, notice the imperfect form here. So like you're bringing, maybe there's a sense of hopefulness in his voice. Like you're bringing good news theoretically here, because this is to bring good news, to report news. It probably is like a neutral term. You report news. Good news would be the idea here. If this were raw, this would be bad news. But anyway. Okay, we got a couple more minutes. So, oh, and Christina Blackfeather is here, which, I just just want to point out, this thing. I just want to point that out. Not that there's any connection between Christina Blackfeather showing up and me pointing that out. No connection there. Okay. Sorry, I'll finish up here. So verse 43. Yeah, we're back on the screen. Here we go. Vaya'an Yonatan vayomer la Adoniyahu aval aval Adonenu hamelech David himlich et Shlomo. This is a very this is not the good news that he was hoping to get. And Jonathan answered, Vaya'an. So this is from Anna, Cal imperfect, third masculine singular from Ayin Nun Hey. Notice the Hey popped off. Third Heys pop off because they're weak. Anna means to answer. So Jonathan answered and said, Amar, Cal perfect, Cal Vav consecutive imperfect. Third masculine singular from Amar to Adonijah. Aval. Aval is, it can be as simple as just like but it can also be however, or actually, maybe is a good way. Actually, to the contrary, this is an adversative, right? It's saying not this, actually, but this. So, on the contrary, Adonenu, so Adon, actually I don't, oops, I think it's like this. I can never remember what that vowel is. I think it's just a straight comments, but anyway, Adon. So then here, which would make sense, right? So the accent shifts to here, which would cause a vowel reduction here. So Anu is the plural, first common plural suffix for meaning our Lord. So our Lord, Adonenu. On the contrary, our Lord, Hamelech David, King David, Himlich. All right. At Shlomo. So this is a Hifil form, or Hifil, whatever we always call it, Hifil. Hifil forms are very often, usually causative. So Malach. Oops. Malach means he ruled. If we put that in the causative, him lich, notice the mem, lamed, kaf, still. Himlich, this is in the Hifil, to cause to reign, right? Like to cause to rule. So to appoint to kingship is maybe another way to say this. So to the contrary, our Lord, King David, has appointed to reign at Shlomo, Solomon. So this is just a Hifil, perfect, third masculine singular from mem, lamed kaf, to cause to reign. All right, I'm going to stop there because I think that's probably a good breaking point. The bad news has been brought, and we'll pick it up next week to see what it is, what the rest is, and what the response then is, how this thing sort of works itself out. So I will be, as has been noted in the side chat, I will be on Mama Atheist channel tonight. Link, I think, is in the description, I saw. If not, go to Mama Atheist now and subscribe. Actually, do both. If you haven't subscribed, go subscribe to Mama Atheist channel. Excellent content. And a lot of it's scientific in nature. So, yeah. And join us tonight. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for staying with me. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, shoot a comment. It helps the algorithm, I think. Just give it a thumbs up and comment. Say, hey, this is great. Maybe you'll get your comment pinned. Anyway, so thank you for joining me, guys. Until next time, resist poor scholarship. Always ask, how do you know that?